do do do.
Really be
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. Shabadoo, shabadoo, shabadoo.
when the liberal media tells you that George is in the sea.
Woo!
That's when you come to Colin and Marie.
Uh,
They're gonna do a podcast now. That's what the show is.
oh,
Yeah.
oh. And nobody
Hello.
asked.
Hello, everybody. Take your seats, everyone. Oh, my goodness. Make sure you go to your assigned seats. For this show, it is spectacular. It's Nobody Asked with Maria.
Hello.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm good. Oh, okay. I couldn't figure out where the chat was. I found it. Perfect. Nobody's in it.
Yes, that's my mom.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
And Colin.
Uh-oh.
Colin.
Colin.
Oh, God. What a diva. 1 second. Footsteps. Door opening. Creak. Colin, you're supposed to be on. Well, I didn't get my carrots. The show is starting. Like, well, I told you to have carrots in my green room. So make it happen. The we'll have carrots in your green room after. All right, fine. Step. Creak. That's door shutting noise.
Slam.
And Colin.
Hey.
Have carrots in my green room.
Do you really like? Do you like carrots though?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Okay. I just thought you wanted them in your green room just to have them.
Yeah. It's just more of an aesthetics thing, you know. If anyone ever comes to the green room, I want to be like, I'm the kind of person that eats carrots, you know. It's all about image for me. Yes. Welcome one and all to Nobody Asked with Colin and Maria. We're so happy to have all of you on this beautiful day. It's been a great and fantastic week. We've got a main topic today, and our main topic is the protests in Iran, or Iran, if you're George W. Bush, and the protests of the hijab that have become protests of many other things in Iran. And really, there's no one in America that's more familiar with the country of Iran than the two that are on your screen right now. My mother and I, we consider ourselves big fans of Iran and of Islamic states in general. I'm sure that you've kind of gotten that vibe from our opinions. They are so often in line with the concepts that are outlined in the Quran, especially jihad. So overall, my mother and I we're just big fans. And so we have many insights to offer you today. And we're also going to talk a little bit about ourselves. So in the beginning, because we got some advice from somebody that didn't know they were giving us advice because it was a YouTube video. And it said, you know, you got to talk about yourselves, because one of the reasons that people interact with the show is to interact with you. So a little inside baseball. We're trying to do that. We're trying to show you our personality. And, you know, I'm going to try and show that I have more emotions than angry, you know?
He does. If anything, he's been the opposite of angry lately. He's sort of been floating on a cloud and spinning up like a top.
I've been living on a prayer, you know? I've been halfway to hell. If life is a highway, I'm going to ride it all night long. Pave paradise and put up a parking lot, you know? So, hello, Ashley. How are you doing? It's our most dedicated fan. Did the profile picture change? Ashley missed the beginning. Let's do the intro again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nobody Asked. And then I did like a whole bit where I pretended that I was a diva about my green room, and that's where we are. Mom, do you want to introduce the first topic, which is ourselves?
We're the first topic?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I would want to start by...
It's the main recurring bit of the show. It's not Spoon Pirates as much as we wish it was.
I know.
It's the joke that we have a sponsor. One day we'll have a sponsor, and I'll put it somewhere else in the show. It will never take the place of this fake ad that we have at the beginning. Today's sponsor is the new Nobody Asked Book Club. Oh, these book clubs, they're very good at generating revenue, we found, for other podcasts. And so we've started our own book club. We'll offer weekly recommendations, not every week, but whenever I read a new book, which at this rate is about once a year. And this year, my book is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. Not only is it really good for holding up this book light, which I use for my warm right light on the podcast, it's better than that. It has words in it. And these words are fantastic. Some of the best words that I've read. It's a mystery novel, and it turns the high school gang detectives that overcome the police kind of narrative on its head. And instead of a high school gang of ragtag detectives, it follows 4 ragtag detectives in an old people's home, 4 incredibly lovable, what does it call them? Not pensioners, who all live in the same assisted living facility and have various backgrounds. A murder occurs near the senior people's campus, and they decide that they're going to take charge. Comedy ensues. It's got great elements of mystery. I can't tell you if it's a good ending because I'm only halfway through, but it's also written by the fantastic Richard Osman. A book with words. What a novel idea. Oh, shit. That's a good joke.
Go let that one down.
Because it's a novel.
It had layers.
Hello, Franca. So, it's written by Richard Osman, who I didn't know wrote books. He was a comedian to me, and only a comedian on such shows as Taskmaster. He's got an immaculate vibe, and I went to my local bookstore, and they had a bunch of signed copies of the 3rd in this series, and I said, he has a series, Poppycock. That's what British, So picked it up, and I thoroughly recommend it. And if you read it too, let me know what you think. How do book clubs work? I don't know.
Later we would discuss it. Theoretically, we would both read it, and then we would discuss the book.
Theoretically, I do think you would enjoy it, Mom. It's spectacular. And Ashley, we will talk about it. We'll talk about the stand-up that was planned, and which did happen. So spoiler alert, it did happen. This episode is sponsored by the Nobody Asked Book Club. Bada bing. That's
boom.
Bada bing, bada boom. When I walk in the room, I
know there's more, but I don't know the rest.
When I walk in, I'm the king of the room, and I keep it locked in like a king in a tomb. When I spit a toxin and they cough on the fumes,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yes, hello everybody, and that introduces our first topic, which is things have been happening in our lives. Mom, what's been happening in your life?
I mean, the house is getting closer to done. Countertops are installed. Heating and air conditioning was running today. Floors go in Friday, so it's all starting to pick up the pace, which is nice. Other things that are going on is that today I'm going to be hosting the Sister Wives recap on John Yates' show because he's busy taking care of Cody, but we still want to keep the content rolling. So it's going to be weird being the host. I just realized that I'm going to have to say hello to everybody at the beginning. Holy moly. And I have to drive the conversation. So I know I'm not John Yates, but it's an interesting opportunity to learn and to connect and all that good shit.
You may not be John Yates, but you are my mom, who's great.
There you go. Did you just say that because it rhymed?
Yes.
Ashley Nicole also said, I will do great.
You'll do great.
You'll do great.
Are you excited?
Barbie's going to hold me to saying hello. Oh no. That's like the hardest thing for me. Wait, what was the question? I lost track. Oh, it's going to be a hot mess. No, I mean, maybe it'll be all right. We'll give it a go. We'll give it a go. We're just trying to keep the channel moving forward, and not lose the momentum that we've had by trying to stay out of the drama and just focus on good quality content. And it's hard because boy, I have opinions about some of the drama, but
Yep.
That's not the objective. Secure the bag at all costs.
You should bring me on to help you, says Ashley. Me, who's never watched an ounce of any of the shows that you guys watch.
Exactly. Otherwise, I would.
Them. So what could be really interesting is you bring me on and I go, what's happening? Constantly. People love that. It's like when you watch a movie and somebody's texting during it and they're like, wait, why is she mad at her? And you're like, this is my favorite part of watching a movie is explaining what's already happened. So that'll be what I do. Really great.
We'll see. No, I would love it. Like Colin, like I feel like you would understand the concept of sister wives, right? I mean, it's sister wives, Utah sister wives, right? So I feel like it wouldn't be that hard for you to jump in and watch an episode, but I'm going to do it with Addie this week. And, hopefully it'll go well. She's got good vibes and, we give her an opportunity to, to hear her voice a little bit more, which, hopefully I do an okay job of not just trouncing all over her as is my natural tendency. I just want to take over the conversation.
Why you have a podcast with me who needs attention and will not be trounced. Oh man. Yeah, that'll be awesome. And I'm sure that you will use the entirety of that podcast to just publicize the shit out of this podcast.
Boy, you want me to self-promote on top of everything? Ay, Dios mío, this is going to be really hard.
Ay, Dios mío. Yeah. You'll have to do all the things which are required of podcasting, which you don't want to do. All you want to do is have a good personality. It's like, do that at the grocery store, lady.
I like how you say "Ay, Dios mío," like you're an Italian thug. No.
Hey, whoa. Hola, gracias.
I've done a very bad job of educating you on your heritage, and I apologize.
Yeah. Dude, that would be funny. That'd be a funny character. Is like an Italian mobster that did the wrong Duolingo. Jesus. What is this? Chorizo? Oh, fuck. Oh, my God. I'm ripping. All right. She very rarely speaks of me. Yeah, I believe that. My mother never speaks about me. She likes to keep me
I keep a lot of people's secret in my life. Like, I have a husband. People vaguely know that he exists.
Oh, yeah. Members only. Advertising members only is a good idea. Yeah, well, that should be exciting and I'm sure stressful, and it hasn't passed. My stressful thing already happened and I am walking on air, baby. When you've been anxious for something for like a full week and then it happens and you get that feeling of like, oh, it's happened. It's just, bottle that up and feed it to the poor, man. It is just the best. So
it's nutritious.
It's stellar, man. It's an opioid. So yeah, I had my open mic yesterday at 5:30 in New York. I did an open mic at the Tiny Cupboard, which is a great name for the venue because it is quite small. I had to walk up. This is real. I show up to the venue and it's got the big metal shutter closed on the front. And I was like, I called ahead about this open mic. And the metal shutter is closed. And I'm about to leave when I realize that there's a side door into an alley next to the place that's propped open by a brick. And I'm like, this could not possibly be how I get into the open mic. So I open that door and there's a sign inside that says, for the main room, go straight ahead. If you're doing the open mic in Studio 315, climb up this fire escape. So I climb up 2 stories of a fire escape. I open it up, and there's a freaking open mic happening with real comedians. These were not just a bunch of people like me who are kind of trying out stuff. There was a guy there that had 2.4 million followers on TikTok. I don't know if it's like against the rules to be like, oh, I did a little show with what's, I don't know. I'm not going to name drop, but there were like legitimate people there, and everyone was testing out material. I did an open mic and I think it went really well. I had some bits that kind of like, I think freaked people out. I realized I was early enough that I did not see how everyone does an open mic. But I realized an adventure that I realized that sometimes people would like do a few bits and then they would say, all right, now let me do my open mic only bits, which is what they mean by like, here's a joke that I think is funny, but I don't think that regular audiences would like. Whereas what I did was I had a fully planned set and I had all the segues. A lot of them were like, here's the concept of a bit. And then they would write down how it did. And they'd be like, all right, here's another setup. And it was very casual. I did a full written out segues and everything set. So I was definitely the most prepared of anyone. And I did some of those perhaps open mic only jokes in there, and I had some big reactions. So, but no, it went really well. I got laughs, which is about as much as you can hope for when it's like 6 to 8 people that are watching you. That's not really the most optimal situation, but I had several jokes that did really well. I had some that I expected to do well. Like I thought something was the punchline, and it turned out a different line was the punchline. I had one bit where the setup, it turns out, was the punchline, and the rest of it was not. They were like, well, stop talking about this because you already got the big laugh. And so it was really interesting. It was really interesting, and it was fun. It was cool to do it in front of other comics, and I think that I succeeded at kind of the top of what you can expect, which is you go and you perform in front of other comedians that have been doing this for 2, 3, 5 years, and you fit right in. I mean, I fit into the whole thing. There were comedians that I had seen on stage before who bombed at this open mic, and I got laughs. And I mean, I think for doing this kind of thing, you have to just tell yourself things went well. And so I had already set my heart on saying it went great, even if it went badly, because I think that I think it would have been too discouraging to be like, I did terrible, I bombed. And no, it actually went good. Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm hoping to do another one either this weekend or the beginning of next week, and start getting into a little bit of a flow. It's crazy, Mom. Just as you put whatever this comment is in the bottom left on, I forgot how to read.
Oh, okay.
I've got aphasia or something. Oh, I learned how to read again. That's crazy. No, I would do a bit, but this is just like, you remember in COVID when all these comedians were doing Zoom stand-up? That's a nightmare, man. Because part of the joy of stand-up is playing off the laughs, right? Is like timing with the laughs and attempting to kind of play the audience like an instrument. And I have to to do it right now, I have to depend on my mother laughing at jokes that I've already called her about multiple times.
Yeah.
So it's rough.
Yeah. No, I laughed. Some of them I laughed at both times.
Some of them you laughed at both times. Yeah, some of them were pretty brutal. Those
were the ones I laughed at.
Yeah, no, I mean, one of them is objectively funny, but the thing is that I think I hadn't created my vibe yet when I told this joke, and a lot of my jokes rely on the audience understanding I'm lying, like this isn't real, and that I'm really making a joke about a. I'll say, that's funny. I did a joke right at the beginning in which I said that I had done something that is objectively awful, and the audience didn't get that I was doing a bunch of setups where I was lying about who I am, and they were like, "You did what?" No, oh God, no.
But it was a good joke, though.
It was a good joke, man. But not for the podcast, and certainly not.
Okay.
But yeah, it went great, and I'm planning to do more, and I will update you guys as I improve. But I do have a friend who is in the same, doing open mics regularly now, and so I'm hoping to kind of catch up to him and we can work together on this whole thing. But yeah, things are great. I'm super excited about how it went, and I'm glad that I got myself to do it, because yesterday at around 11 a.m., I was like full on anxiety attack. I was dry heaving. It was all very adorable.
You were dry heaving.
I get stage fright bad for how many times I've been on stage. You know, it really, and it gets me something heavy, especially if it's been a long time since I've done something. And I found that my best tool for preventing the stage fright is swigging Listerine.
Listerine. Oh, okay. Does it just sort of numb the back of the throat?
When you get really famous, do Barbie and I get VIP tickets for being your early fans? LOL. Yes. That's a firm yes. Okay.
Yeah,
backstage, absolutely. Everything. Absolutely. Yeah. Anyone that commented on an early Nobody Asked is getting early tickets. They can claim that clout for when I'm doing MSG and whatnot. I actually, when
monosodium glutamate?
What?
You said doing MSG.
Madison Square Garden.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah, absolutely. People get the VIP tickets. I actually did, when I was doing TikTok a lot more, I wrote down my first 100 followers, and I keep them on an Excel spreadsheet so that if I ever get famous, come on, but I will, that they'll get VIP tickets. So yeah, absolutely. The most dedicated fans, Ralph Tedda, absolutely the most dedicated fans will get those VIP tickets. Mark that down, baby. Vinny Reddy said, I have an old college friend who's a touring comic. His name is Ralph Tedda. Look him up. Okay.
It's not cousin Vinny. It's my brother Vinny.
Creator of Jokes for Sale.
Wait, he sells jokes?
I've never seen this guy, but he's from Rochester. Cool.
It is Uncle Vinny.
Did I say cousin Vinny?
No, somebody else said cousin Vinny. I go, no, it's my brother. And then she's like, oh, or is it Uncle Vinny? Yes, it's Uncle Vinny.
Uncle Vinny.
You should just change your name, Vinny. Make it Uncle Vinny.
Come on. All right. Well, that was the first topic. We're going to do just a very brief hiatus because I need to get some water. So everyone look directly into the light, but try not to walk towards it. I've heard that's bad. And I'll be right back. Feel free to interact with the audience. Mom, I just need water.
Okay, great. Like this doesn't happen to me all the time. Because it does. It happens to me all the time. I believe that Barbie asked earlier if Colin has gotten a new job. He has. I think he mentioned it last week. You know, he said he was kind of starting his own business, but he's got a little copywriting thing going on where he just kind of is doing it. He's doing enough where basically he's working half the hours that he was working previously, but he's making, the same or more money. So he has the time now to go and do open mics and to write jokes and to have a good time and to live the dream, which is really cool. Ooh, oh,
what?
Interacting, Maria. It's so hard to interact. I like to live in my bubble. Ooh, that's scary. Why do your eyebrows, your upper eye area look really weird from this angle?
I do not know. For I see. Why do I?
What's happening? Just having fun with the lights?
Funny story.
Just having fun. Funny story. I've been thinking about talking to Colin about starting a satire magazine. I would have my own Colin and call myself Uncle Vinny. It's a good persona.
Lampoon or what? I've got free time out the wazoo. Okay, more projects, baby.
Yeah. I mean, you are still busy. Like there's a reason we do it on Wednesdays usually. He does keep himself very occupied. Yep. Should we talk about Iran though?
Iran. We should. I absolutely talk about Iran. Man, here's the thing about Iran is that over there's all these crazy religious folks, unlike where I'm from, and I'm just making fun of the fact that you called it Iran. All right.
Well,
Let's talk about it.
You want to talk about Iran and not Iran?
Iran.
Oh, Iran. Like Aaron? Iran?
Like
Okay.
Aaron.
No? Okay.
So it's funny because it's right on the edge of like, maybe this is just how Americans pronounce it now, but it's definitely not actually pronounced Iran. But George W. Bush did a number on this country, man. And now everyone says Iraq, Iran. Ellie, the most educated person in either of our lives is like, oh, you're doing Iran today? I'm like,
yeah, that's the way I hear it in my ears. The same thing, like, so the leader of Iran is the Ayatollah, right? The Ayatollah Khomeini. That's the way I heard it as a kid. Like, but then I heard like British people saying his name as I was researching stuff, and I'm like, I don't know how to say his name. But when I was a kid, the Islamic Revolution happened in 1979, and I was born in 75, and all of that drama that happened around, there was a hostage crisis and stuff. I heard that, the Ayatollah Khomeini like a million times on the news when I was a kid. So I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but that's how it is in my body and mind, just like Iran.
Really, I shouldn't make a big deal out of it. Certain countries just pronounce things differently. And, that just means it's what it's called. Okay. I beef with people that are like, it's not soccer, it's football. And I'm like, well, you're in America, so it's actually soccer.
Yeah.
And it's not chips, it's French fries here. No.
Absolutely. I do know. They're not biscuits, they're cookies. Biscuits are something else.
Okay. Hit me up with that early Iran history, Ma.
Well, listen, it's complicated is what I'm going to start with. So I'm definitely not going to give you all the information that you need, because as hard as I tried to ingest it, it was confusing. There have been like three different revolutions in the last century. Freedom fries! And so understanding how all of those kind of, fit together would probably be helpful, but I don't know if I can really give that to you. What I can give you is, before the current leader, the Ayatollah Khomeini, happened, there was a guy that was a Shah, right? So it's kind of like a king. It was sort of like a monarchy, but not in the traditional sense, in that he was appointed at one point. He was placed in that position. It wasn't like he earned it, in the traditional way of it just continuously being passed down, right? So this guy was appointed as the Shah, and he was quite gorgeous and opulent, as one would be. And he was also quite liberal, and he was very big on modernizing Iran. And now, it was a traditional monarchy in the sense that he then did hand it down to his son, who then ran with it even farther and became even more liberal, even more westernized. It was, very big on secular education, big on secular Iran all the way around. There were many different religions there. It wasn't just Muslims. So, he was all about westernizing things, and he was very much in bed with the U.S. There was one point where, there was some unrest in his nation, people that weren't happy. And he did, if you protested him, you'd be dead. And that's no different now with the Ayatollah, just to be clear. But the Ayatollah was, at some point, he had been banished from the country, and he was kind of a philosopher. And, he had his own ideas about how Iran should be led, and that it should be led, by an Islamic cleric who, would be like the super leader until one of the descendants from Muhammad presented themselves as the real leader. And so that's kind of what he is and what he believes. And there were plenty of secular people that got behind him because of what was going on in their country. There was this, the Shah was kind of taking away a certain amount of the aristocracy and redistributing the wealth to the working class, which you would think would be good. But, not everybody likes when you take their money. And then there was a lot of scholars. There was just a lot of liberal scholars, all different kinds of people that kind of got on board with the Ayatollah, because they were all aligned with sort of getting rid of the Shah, because he was still a dictator of sorts. So Iran also had a prime minister, but the Shah worked with the US and the UK to assassinate that guy. So,
Cool.
he wasn't like just because he had liberal ideas and wanted to modernize and westernize that he was all rainbows and butterflies. He was not. Was he pro women? Yeah, that's why when you look at all of these pictures that they like to show you about what Iran looked like in 1970, before 1979, you see them in their short shorts and their bikinis and stuff, right? Because he was very big on westernizing, and I think he thought getting women on his side was going to be a good thing. Giving women the right to vote would be a good thing, even though voting was sort of, I'll give you the right to vote, even though I'm not going anywhere kind of a situation. So, so he was an interesting, it was an interesting time, right? So at some point, everybody kind of got together, and was all of these different factions were mad at the Shah and collectively got together to the point where even the military would no longer back the Shah. And if your military is not defending you, you are done. And so he had to nope out of there. And, in the power vacuum that was left, the Ayatollah rose to the top. And then what did he do? He appointed himself as, of course, this nice religious leader, and let me change all of the rules about Iran. Prior to that, right, women could choose to wear a head covering if they wanted to, but it was not required. But in 1979, it was decreed that all women over the age of 9 must wear a headscarf in the workplace or in government buildings. And if they didn't, they started to get ridiculed and somewhat attacked, right? And so then it kind of expanded in 1983, where it became mandatory to wear a hijab in public completely. The penalty for not wearing one was 74 lashes. But often it was just you were going to prison. You were getting long prison terms for not being properly covered. Let's see. By 2021, you would be getting 2 to 10 days in prison for un-Islamic code. And then in the last decade, as they become more liberal, Iran has slowly become more liberal with their dress codes, being exposed to the Western world more via the internet and social media. You're seeing the uprise of the guidance patrol or the morality police.
Yep.
And what they would do is they would violently arrest you and then re-educate you, right? And after hours of re-instruction and signing of a pledge, then they would release you to your family. Yes, Barbie, lashes, 74 to be specific. So,
what a weird, it's always, I mean, in any judicial system, the number that we arrive at is just confusing sometimes. You're like 18 years for, this kind of assault, and you're like, that does feel like it came from nowhere, doesn't it? But same with these lashings. One of the things that's interesting in reading accounts from Iran about these re-education camps is how common going to these are. It seems as though the morality police there are, not unlike certain other types of police, are fulfilling quotas no matter what. And so when the overall population of women comes much, much closer to that dress code, even smaller infractions will be called out. And some of them, it's one of the infractions is like having clothing that makes it possible to see the curves of your body. And then we get into, subjective land, and the police are able to call out on that. So what was interesting after these protests is, the West starts paying attention to this police force. And one of the things that was interesting was seeing all of the reporters who, you would think that the reporters that are generally very well educated, and the very well educated and well off generally are able to avoid interactions with the police. At least that's what we understand, on this side of the ocean. And there, all of the reporters said that they had been to this specific re-education center in which the woman who died, what was her name again?
Masoumeh Amini.
Masoumeh Amini. That this specific re-education center, all of the journalists said that they themselves had been arrested by the morality police and been brought there. So this is not an uncommon occurrence, and it's in fact so common that I believe that when this happened at that center, the strange effect that occurred was that there was no one within that city that was able to tell themselves the story that this woman deserved it, or that it couldn't happen to their daughter, or it couldn't happen to themselves. Everyone believed that they were of the populace that this could have happened to, because it was so common to go to this re-education center among women, which I found very surprising, right? I mean, you hear about Rikers Island in New York a lot, but there's only a very specific percentage of the country that interacts with Rikers at all. And
True.
So it's so
Everybody.
Because of that, when you try and talk about all of the problems in Rikers, a significant amount of the voting populace goes, well, this doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect my friends. It doesn't affect anyone I know. And so it's easy to put to the back of their mind. But in this case, because it's so common for the morality police to arrest women in this city from all different walks of life, everyone believed that they could have been this woman who died.
Absolutely. And so let me talk about her, Masoumeh Amini. She was 22. She was with her brother. They got stopped, I believe, on a highway. So I was a little confused about that, if they stopped the car or what the situation was there. They got stopped, and she was detained for not wearing her hijab properly. And her brother was told, we'll take her to the re-education center. You can pick her up in an hour. It's only going to take an hour. She's got to complete a class, and then you can come pick her up. So he waits there for 2 hours. And then after 2 hours, he's told, she's been rushed to the hospital. She had a heart attack and what was the other part? A brain seizure. So he's like, right? So she does go to the hospital. She ends up being in a coma for 3 days. And of course, the police say what the police are going to say, right? That we didn't do anything, right? Despite the fact that her family sees that her feet are bruised and her eyes are black, as much as they're able to see her body, because they're being kept from seeing her largely. And when they do see her, she's wrapped up except for like her face and her feet. So that's all they can see. But they start to get doctors who say, oh no, yeah, she has a long history of heart problems. Her family's like, no, she doesn't. So the government has gotten people to lie about what happened here, but it has leaked. There are people that do want to do the right thing and have leaked, and then they've had, forensic people look at it.
Photograph leak, correct? That a photograph from the hospital leaked and spread around Iranian social media. And that was a lot of what spurred the outcry of the public, was the story that was being told by the government of this heart attack. And there was a video in which people are told that this is the woman, but I don't believe anyone in Iran believes this is the same person. There's a video of a woman collapsing in one of the classes. Like, a woman gets up and then collapses, and then guards kind of rush around her. And then the video cuts and police rush in and take the woman away. But there's nothing identifying. No one in Iran that is not involved in the government believes that this was her. Especially, that is the story, and that video came out because there was already a little bit of a like, what the fuck is going on energy to this whole thing. And then when the photos came out of her being bruised and of her face and of the results of that, then people were like, well, that sure as hell doesn't look like a fucking heart attack, Exactly. And I will also say there were eyewitnesses, right? She wasn't the only person at the re-education center. So the other women that were detained there, they say she was severely beaten. So not, severely beaten. And all indications from pictures are that she was severely beaten, that she had a cerebral hemorrhage. And yeah, it's just not right. Like, her dad doesn't believe anything. He's like, they are lying. They are lying. They are lying. They are, and I think what is particularly, for me, what's interesting about this is, so this was the catalyst of the riots, was this woman, being snatched up by the morality police and murdered for not wearing her hijab properly. And, the chants that they're chanting are very like, let's kill the person that killed our sister. So everybody is viewing her as their sister, which is, really cool. It hits a different way when you do that. But if you look at the riots, you're not just seeing women in the riots, right? You're seeing men in the riots, a lot of young men. You see older women. You see all different aged people that all collectively are done with this. This is not the first riot that they've had in recent history in Iran. They had some in 2019 over gas prices. And, the penalty for rioting
is, very possibly death. They've detained probably 1,000 people already, and they are risking everything to change Iran because they're done. They are done with being silenced in this way violently.
Well, and it's interesting because it lit a fuse that has expanded outside of the issue of hijabs and morality police, right? And it's one thing that I thought was interesting that was said by one of the Iranians is that her name is now being used as a way to signal to other people what side you're on. Like if you say that name, it's your way of saying down with the Iranian dictator, and many people are saying let's kill the dictator, and saying, I mean, it's just on the razor's edge of a revolution. What people are saying here.
Right. We're on day 12, right? And they have taken over some of the cities. They have pushed the police back to such a level that they have taken over cities, and they are just, and let's be fair, like the police are not just, tear gassing and rubber
bullets. It's not
bullets.
The Seattle police, right? It's not, they're not being ordered by the governor to yield 4 blocks to create some ridiculous fucking zone for a protest. The police are essentially a military force in here. They are shooting into crowds with live bullets.
Yes.
And so this is not gaining ground from that sort of force implies a lack of options from the government from that revolution. And just briefly, because you talked a little bit about the protest that happened in 2019, there has been a lot that has changed in the last 6 years. So one thing that's interesting is that you mentioned is that many of the people that are alive in Iran today saw that ultra-liberalism in the 70s. And so they lived through that and they're aware of that. And then they see online that reality exists for other people. And so there's always been a vague sense of unrest with the state of things in Iran. And that came to a head with all of the sanctions that were brought against Iran by the Obama administration, when a number of different countries flagged that there appeared to be a secret nuclear program in Iran. And in order to bring Iran to the bargaining table, all of these countries agreed to apply economic sanctions upon Iran, which crippled the economy for multiple years. And it did eventually bring Iran to the nuclear bargaining table, and those sanctions were released. But in that time, many of the individuals in Iran, many of the citizens, felt the economic pain of these sanctions. One of the things that was said is that families went from being able to eat easily and have what would reasonably be construed as like a reasonable life, to being unable to afford protein, and people being in various conditions of nutritional of malnourishment because certain nutrients are just not available to them at the price that they were in Iran. And those sanctions were lifted after Iran agreed to certain nuclear sanctions. And then, as I think many of the citizens expected, Iran was not able to fulfill their promises because of the prevalence of corruption, and because I think that they did want this nuclear bargaining chip. And Trump, for all we've said about Trump, spoon pirate, he withdrew from the nuclear deal and said, we're reapplying some of the hardest sanctions that Iran ever saw, and recollapsed the economy again. And if you were to look at this from a little bit of a conspiracy theory, eyeglass, I think that Iran is a real nuclear threat. And then what we see is we're able to apply these economic sanctions from NATO and from America, which clearly have an effect on the populace. And it's a populace that's already prone to revolution because of what they've seen, and because there are so many issues, and because there's corruption, that if we just put our fingers on the scale a little bit, then eventually something will light the fuse. And that's what we're seeing right now. I mean, the entire economy on the globe is in a bad place right now, but the Iranian economy is not doing better. It is doing significantly worse because of all these things, despite the fact that Iran has oil reserves. And that was one of the major things that increased in price with the war in Ukraine. And so you have all these citizens who are much more aware of what's going on in the world, who are aware of the war in Ukraine, who are aware that there's corruption that is lining the pockets of various people at the very top of their country, and are only seeing their own way of life become more and more difficult. And all in the meantime, there is a morality police that is subjecting all women in a country where women are educated. More than 50% of college graduates in Iran are women.
Wow.
And these women are being shown serious violence at the hands of the morality police with no accountability from that morality police. And there are multiple stories. People were afraid of this re-education center long before this story. That the name of that education center inspired fear among women because of the stories you would hear. And many times people would die there and it wouldn't leak in the way. And the government story would be just enough to prevent something like this. And the brave people that leaked these images, I know that the journalist who broke the story of say your name again, I'm sorry.
Masoumeh Amini.
Who broke the story of Masoumeh Amini. I know that journalist is in prison now, but these were the people that were able to light that fuse, and that is what we're seeing today. Is that the protest over the hijab has grown to encapsulate all that is wrong with Iran right now, and it is, like any revolution, a dissatisfied populace who doesn't feel represented by the decisions that have been made by the government, showing that belief. And what you hear from a lot of them is that they know people are dying, they know people are being detained, they know that there are many negative results from this, but they say, what do we have to lose? The life that they're leading now is not any worse than the probability of death. And you're like, Jesus Christ, man. It is brutal.
It is brutal. And the Iranian government is trying to control the information getting out to the world by blacking out the internet. You can't access Instagram, you can't access WhatsApp, but it's still getting out there. The world is seeing what is happening there. And I think, to me, that's one of the best things about social media, and about TikTok in particular, is, before they start suppressing, TikTok does suppress stuff, but in the beginning, you get to see a lot of stuff. And so,
see a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, TikTok is a Chinese tool, and China is an ally of Iran and Russia, all the people that we'd like to be getting information about. But it is amazing the way that it gets out. It's also amazing. These protests are not localized to the big cities or to the city in which this happened. Some of the ultra religious enclaves of the country, where a lot of the power of the religious regime stems from, are seeing massive protests as well, with people of all generations and of both parties, right? There's a reformist party and a conservative party. And both parties have seen multiple people get elected, and then either the people that are elected don't want to enact the change that they promise, or it is impossible for them to enact the change when they get to their office. And so you'll see people on opposite sides of the aisle walking in lockstep with each other, saying, no matter the party, kill the dictator. You're like, oh, fuck. This is how it happens.
Wow. I mean, yeah. And this is why you go after women. Women aren't left or right? They are everybody. So if you want to go after women, eventually you're gonna get people on both sides. You're gonna get the husbands and the fathers on board with what's happening. I mean, we're watching the women burn their veils, because that's, of course, where this started. The veil is becoming a sign of oppression, right? Because it doesn't matter what religion you are. They've decided that Iran is an Islamic country, and so you're going to follow their rules, whether you want to or not. So the veil is a sign of oppression regardless. And then they're cutting their hair, which is taking it a step further. Let me cut this feminine thing that for some reason you've over-sexualized in your country, and you're saying I'm naked if I'm not veiled, because that's the word that they use. Unveiled is naked to them. And they're just like, let me just take this away. Let me take this away, and control my own destiny. Why is this a problem that is keeping me, from moving forward, that is forcing me to get re-educated and beaten to death? And so it's kind of a big deal. It's a big deal all the way around. The more you watch and see just the diversity of the people that are fighting back, it it feels some sort of way. I don't know.
It's it's a shame in many ways. Women end up being very powerful in a way that is like that in so many different situations throughout history. Women have not been able to take advantage of this power, but historically in wars, rape will be used as a tool of war because of its demoralizing effect on the men who are fighting. Right, the idea that
Interesting.
if you actively defend a location, then the men who defeat you will then rape the women in the place that you are defending, would demoralize and would be used as a weapon of war to demoralize the fighters who are defending, who might know that they're not going to win. And in this situation, this is something that you have to believe, especially when we're in a place where the globe is going to become more divided, and we're going to become more hateful of certain countries because of the actions that they're taking, is that great women and great men do exist in all places, I hope. And what you see is that you just need the situation. You need the correct chemicals on a social scale beneath these people in order to enable them to show that they are great. And here, all of these women showed their strength and show their strength through these protests. And the men followed suit because, like it or not, men care about women. Good men do.
Good men do.
Good men care about women, and they see this, and they see the people that they care about, and they see human beings. Let's fucking hope, and they too will do great things. And so it's a little bit. What we're seeing is terrible in Iran, but you can also take it as a reminder that people are good. Yeah. People with power they really struggle to be good, but people are good, and people will defend the people that they care about. And hopefully, actually we've known for a while that Iranians specifically are good and will that. I remember when we were in the midst of the sanctions against Iran, Iran was attempting to stoke anti-American, the Iranian government was attempting to stoke anti-American sentiments among their populace, because they knew that as soon as the economic pressure was felt by the citizens, it would either be directed as anger towards Americans or as anger towards the government regime. And so they began a propaganda push to turn it against Americans. And one of the things that they did is they painted American flags on the ground in major city centers where people would walk over, so that people would step on the American flag and feel like they were stepping on the idea of America, the thing that was oppressing them. And there were all these videos, and they were spectacular, of in major city centers where people were packed, of people parting around the American flag in order to prevent feeding into the propaganda of their own government. I mean, it says less about how they feel about America than how they feel about the people at the top that were attempting to manipulate them. But they were always taking moral stances. And it's because I do think it's because of the prevalence of education in Iran, and it's because of the prevalence of experience in Iran that this older generation has passed down the knowledge of what a more liberal world looks like. And I think that has enabled this population. Hopefully they can do something. It's about how long they're able to sustain this. And one of the unfortunate elements of revolution is that people don't dedicate a lot of time to what do we do if we win? And you've got to have a real plan, or else America will come in and be like, we have some ideas. And
there's that. Or somebody or another Ayatollah pops up and fills the vacuum. So you gotta know. You have to be farsighted, if you can be, and see who is likely to snatch up the opportunity. or to see it as an opportunity. There's always somebody, and that's not what you want. As much as the Shah being installed seems weird, somebody installing somebody on another level feels like, well, if he was chosen by the people, then it's kind of cool. I don't know. I don't know. It's weird.
It is all a struggle, and it will be interesting how the public outcry over this reopens the conversation about head coverings, even in America, because the confusion has always been, on one hand, people should have the freedom to wear whatever they want. On the other hand, the things that people are wearing represent oppression. And they represent oppression for people, and they represent bringing oppression to a place that is for non-oppression. And so it's very difficult to ask the question when you see women wearing the hijab in America, which is, was this your choice? Or was this a man in your life? Was it their choice?
Well, but
or were you told it was your choice, but it's not really your choice? And this is a struggle.
Question. No, it's a good question. But I'll also say you do see Muslims in America. Some of them are covered, some of them are not covered. And that's what Iran used to look like. It used to be a choice. And so I do think that we need to, while it feels oppressive through our lens, I wouldn't make the assumption that the woman feels that way when she chooses it for herself. So in the same way that
it has this context, though, right?
Huh?
It's very difficult because it has this context, though, right?
But should it?
It does have this context. Well, except that the reason that the hijab exists is Islamic scripture, and that the scripture is... It's
in the Bible, too. There's head covering stuff, and there's a lot of stuff about your hair.
That it is in the scripture, and it is oppressive in the scripture. And so to say that it doesn't have this representation, even when it's elected, it opens a difficult conversation to me. I certainly never...
If you view it as sacred, then it's different. Do you think your hair is sacred? Is it your crown of glory? It just depends on how you view it through your own lens. But I will also say, in the way that it's oppressive to mandate somebody to wear a hijab, I feel like, isn't it sort of oppressive to also mandate that somebody not wear one if they want to?
Though, not listening to my words, I'm saying I would never advocate for not allowing people to wear hijabs.
Okay.
Almost because of the exact argument that you're making.
My bad. I might have talked over you.
Be a rule against it, right? But what I'm saying is that when you see it in your life, it is difficult to attempt to separate these two concepts because it is grounded in oppression. And it's a lie to yourself to say that it is not grounded in oppression, even if it's grounded in the scripture. The scripture is oppressive. Listen to me. The Quran is fucking racist. So is the Bible. This is what gets all fucking muddled. People are, oh, what about the Bible? Fuck the Bible, okay? The thing is that the Quran is like, it's like BYU, baby, except so much worse. Because it's like, the Quran is like, here's how you should punish somebody if they're a Muslim. Here's how you should punish them if they're not a Muslim. And it's like, it's often double. Not unlike if you go to BYU and it's like, here's what you should charge them for college if they're a Mormon. And here's what you should charge them if they're not a Mormon. And it's fucking double. That's bullshit, man. And the reality is that these religious garbs are grounded in oppression. And people can say that they wear them electively. And there's a world in which people do wear them electively. But the reality is, F the Bible, the reality is that until we completely abstract ourselves from this cultural element, right? Like we're so close to getting away from periods are gross because the Bible told me so. And that still people are like, oh, period blood. Bleh. Like it's blood. I don't know, man. Somebody did a bit yesterday about this, and so it's on my brain. But
it does somehow seem much scarier when it's coming out of your hoo-ha than when it's coming out of any other part of you for some reason.
I think how you should experience it. But
shame.
The difficulty of this whole thing, you should certainly never regulate against somebody wearing it. But here's what I think is a fair question, okay? When somebody is wearing the hijab, if you didn't wear the hijab, right? you, the individual who's wearing it, would there be someone in your family who judges you or disciplines you for not wearing it? If that's true, you cannot be wearing it electively. You can only wear it electively in a situation in which you would be equally accepted by your peers and your family for not wearing it. Then you're wearing it electively. And even then, you are choosing to wear something that is a symbol of oppression for another people. And so it's at the very least tenuous.
No, I think that's a valid point. It's a valid point. You know, I talked to your uncle's fiance a lot, Lara, and you know, she's a Mormon, but she sees all the problems in the church, and so she has her own spirituality, and she usually doesn't go to church, but because it's important to your uncle, she's been going, and it's really hard for her because she's like, I have this cute sundress, but my shoulders are showing, and you know, your uncle isn't ready yet for me to go to church like that. He's not ready, but I'm going to get him there, because for him, you know, there's a certain way that you dress at church. You know, it's just the way it's done. This is tradition. This is honoring God and the church to show up this way, right? And so the idea that suddenly her shoulders being exposed in a sundress is somehow not honoring God, as if God gives a shit about your shoulders or your hair. You know, it's just some stuff it's really hard to rewire.
Different uncle, Ashley.
Different uncle.
Ashley asks if Uncle Vinny is a sister wife Mormon or a regular wife Mormon. Uncle Vinny is a long hair rocker, and also kind of straight edge. He defies convention, if we're being honest. But he's not Mormon.
He's definitely not Mormon. There was a time when he maybe was a little bit pagan, you know, but I can't remember. He said what he called himself the other day, and I can't remember what it was. Wiccan? But I don't think he's a Wiccan, but I think at some point, you know, he may have dabbled in that. But
pagan was definitely in there. No, this is my uncle on my dad's side, who is a regular wife Mormon.
Yes, single wife, one wife at a time.
One wife at a time. And the one that he's working on right now is our favorite by a long shot.
For sure.
Frankly, I would like them to just get married because I want her in the family because I like her vibe. So,
right. But they do struggle with, they need to get their temple recommend so that they can get properly sealed, so that they can be husband and wife for eternity. So some of
yet again, these fucking loopholes that the religious use to say that they're not doing something that they are. Yo, if you're gonna be fucking, what's the word for religious discrimination? It's not xenophobia, is it? Fucking, no. If you're gonna be, okay, you know, there's so many different levels. One, the Jewish act like they're the most secular, but then try to marry into a Jewish family and you'll have a mother that hates you, okay, if you are not Jewish. That is so common. Then the Mormons are like, no, we're a little bit better, though. You're totally allowed to marry someone that's not Mormon. You just won't get into the highest level of heaven. No, that's a dumbass loophole. Okay, they're like, no. But if your spouse converts, then you can get married in the temple, and then you can get to the highest level of heaven. It's like, then they're a Mormon, you fucking moron. Right? Of course. And by the way, if you get married in the temple, your non-Mormon relatives can't see you get married. Nope. Fuck the Mormon church, dog. That shit is whack. Okay, they're homophobic. I know I'm not really taking a stance that's controversial here. I mean, the only people that aren't Mormon that think Mormons are chill got all their information about Mormonism from the Broadway play, and even that doesn't make them look great. So this is not a crazy stance that I'm taking, but all these religions, man, it's just like, they're like, no, actually, it's fine that we oppress our women. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Just totally be bold about it.
They've chosen to be oppressed. They're being their best selves.
Well, and of course they'll lift up female voices when it's convenient for them, right? When it's politically convenient, right? So when they're talking about women with the priesthood or the hijab or whatever, they will lift up women voices then. No other time in the church. In fact, they'll explicitly regulate against women having voices in the fucking church. But then the second that we're talking about women themselves, they'll find the most conservative, brainwashed ass, blonde, blue-haired motherfucker to go up there and be like, actually, well, I believe in Christ or Allah or whatever the fuck so much that I love my beatings. And you're like, look, man,
They bring me closer to God.
and because they're playing you, man. They're playing the liberals, because the liberals are like, well, we have to trust people on the basis of their identity. Whoop, he said it. And so if it's a woman that's saying that they like being oppressed, then we have to believe her. Fuck that. If oppression looks like oppression, it's oppression, okay? You could have shown me a million fucking testimonies that the South said came from slaves, talking about how slaves enjoyed their slavery, and I would have said it's still fucking slavery, dog.
Yeah.
And also, you own them, and they're probably saying the shit that they're saying on threat of the oppression you're putting them through. So it's not a legitimate source of information. You know what is? Oh, I got into my Seinfeld impression. What's the deal? What's the deal with these testimonies from the oppressed?
Wait, here, read. This is a good one. Go ahead, read this in Seinfeld. This is good.
Oh, Barbie. Oh, I'm going to read it in the voice of the cat, okay? Hey. Never mind. My ex is Catholic. When we got married, the church demanded to know why I wasn't Catholic. I said, if there's only one God, how do all these religions have different rules?
Hard to argue.
Uh-oh. I'm sorry, but you've made an illegal argument. It uses logic. We don't do that here. Rooted in scripture, baby. What scripture does it say you can use logic?
None. Faith only. Faith only. Believing without seeing.
Is that a combined polyester cotton shirt? Oh, God, where's my shotgun?
Oh, shoot. That's in there, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Don't mix blends.
And it's fucking crazy, man. These people, when you talk about this, especially when you talk about the Quran, because, of course, in America, Muslims are more oppressed than Christians because it's a Christian fucking state. And so, of course, if you talk about the Quran negatively, people will go, well, it's also in the Bible. Yo,
I did say that earlier.
About the Bible, dude. And we've been talking shit. You can talk shit about multiple things. Talk shit about my Bible, baby. Thursday Murder Club by Richard.
Woo! Bring it around.
Yeah, baby.
Well done, sir. Well, sir. Well done. Man, we just took a hard topic and somehow, got fun at the end. So that was kind of special. It was kind of special.
We're great. We're really good at this, right?
We're so good at this.
Are you guys
everybody watching?
liking, subscribing? Are you turning on that notification bell? Are you dreaming of my mother and I's faces at night? Are you lighting candles and putting them in a very specific shape? We all know the shape, on the ground, and singing your hymns to make sure that we get 2 more live viewers next week? Are you calling your grandpa and saying, hey, old man, I'm actually...
What's the joke? I'm afraid you're laughing at yourself.
I'm sorry. I just realized that almost everyone's grandpas are dead in this chat, certainly. But hey, I was trying to decide if we were going to talk to a ghost or not, and I got caught in my own joke. I was like, oh, that's hilarious. Are you calling your dad and going like, are you listening to the Nobody Asked podcast? You're going to disagree with most of their opinions, but they're funny. If you're not doing that, then you can't get married in our temple.
Oh, we have a temple now?
Yeah.
Where is it? What does it look like?
It's over there.
Oh, okay, cool. It's a couple of RVs just kind of angled together.
It's right under there.
Oh. Okay. I just want to loom over people while they're sleeping. I just want us to just stare at people as they're sleeping. Hi.
Stare at people.
Hi, thanks for watching our podcast.
Thank you. Oh my God.
You're
such a good fan.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're so happy to have you here.
I went through your text messages while you're sleeping. I noticed you haven't told anyone about our next week podcast subject.
Oh, no, you should do that. Yeah, we really want to see them. Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna go haunt your daughter.
All right, I think we're wrapping it up now.
We're wrapping it up. Everybody, thank you so much. Give your pet a kiss. Go
Sexy.
polish your rings. Say whatever prayers you would like.
So
And
whoever or whatever you'd like, say them to yourself.
whatever you'd like. Go be oppressed and deny it. Go tell a Crizzo to suck an egg. And
What's a Crizzo? Is that a Christian? A Christian
baby.
Lizzo? A Christian Lizzo?
It's a James Acaster reference in his most recent special. I know you wanted me to talk about this right as we were wrapping up. In his most recent special, he comes out and he talks about how everyone thinks that he's like family comedy and how it's made his audiences terrible and they're all a bunch of Crizzos. And so he started doing like really crass humor right at the beginning to get all the Crizzos out of here. So pretty funny.
How do you make emojis on a computer keyboard? Anyway, Barbie, thank you. Pretend I just put a bunch of hearts after your statement because I don't know how to do it on a computer. I need my phone. Emoji, 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 emoji. All right. Well, thanks for keeping us company. I wasn't listening to you, Colin. I know you know that. I love you.
I love you too. Turn on the numbers and I'll press end broadcast.
Okay, I got to figure out how to... Dude, I am not good with this computer situation. Just as a proper old lady mom should be. I cannot do anything.
You are so young.
Things are opening up where I don't want them to. I can't get to the top of the screen. I'm going to have a meltdown. Oh, shit. Now I'm even... Oh, I think my screen got too big somewhere. Hey, there we go. There it is. Found it.
Found it.
No, the ass. No, the ass. Thanks for keeping us company on the show. We really like to see you here as we rant about absolute nonsense. It's really hard to keep the beat because there's a delay. I don't know if I'm on